Ronnie, thank you so much for giving me your time again. It's quite strange, really, because we're back in this house, which is your mum's house, but it's 2020. 2003, we recorded the first podcast just over there. We were actually just sitting on the floor, and the world has changed in the last 17 years, right?
Yeah, kind of. Probably more in the last 6 months than it has in the previous 16 and a half, I'd imagine,
Yeah.
You slowly get drip fed change, but I just think this has been one humongous change, isn't it? So, yeah, funny, but we're still here.
We're still here, but obviously there's a few things that's happened to you. So you're now 6 times snooker world champion. So all those years ago you'd won it once. And before, when we were driving up here, I listened to both of the podcasts that we did. And it was just so fascinating listening to many of the things that you said that have stayed with me for a long time, and lots of other people. So one of them was about the daily detox.
Yeah.
We were talking about detoxing years ago, and you went, mate, listen, I detox every day. When I sweat, there's steam rising off my head. Yeah. Are you still into detoxing?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always I'm big into fitness, health and fitness, in that sort of way. And you go to these spas and they want to put mud packs on you and they want to charge you like this and that. And listen, it's all great to treat yourself now and again, but I always found that the detox comes from inside out. And if you can run and sweat and get out in the fresh air, and I'm a big fan of nature as well, so I believe running through the forest and getting all that oxygen from all the trees and the natural stuff, surely it's sort of it's got to be good for you, and I always feel good for it. I remember when I was constantly running consistently for 5-6 years, I never had a cough or a cold for 5 or 6 years, because my body just got used to being in cold, hot weathers, and I don't know, just maybe my system was so much stronger. So reconnected with that sort of health and fitness program again. I didn't really run properly for 6-7 years because of injuries, but slowly got back into it, and I'm appreciating more being outdoors and more the detoxing that I'm putting myself through now than I ever had, because I didn't have it for about 7-8 years.
So let's go back, because also I was thinking today, I'm 50, so I met you probably 18, 19 years ago, and I think that's a third of my life, and it's quite strange just to think about how long I've known you for. But how we met was you were going through a pretty difficult time, and there was a lady that you knew who contacted Talk Sport, and Talk Sport contacted me, and then we met outside the Ritz in London, and they wouldn't let you in because you weren't wearing, I think you were wearing jeans. So we went somewhere else, and we connected, and then you came to see me where I lived in Sussex, and you were coming for a couple of hours, and you stayed for 3 days. And that was the start of just something. I was really, it was great. I really enjoyed getting to know you, and we did some work together, and I know that you won 3 tournaments back to back.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. It was amazing just to see your journey. We worked together for a while, and you've carried on doing what you do. But I'd love to know, this was the thing I wanted to talk to you about, mastery. So 18 years ago, I told you about this book that was written by Dr. Malcolm Gladwell, who talked about this 10,000 hours. To be really good at anything, you've got to do 10,000 hours of practice. And you reckoned then, he said, I've done way more than 10,000 hours, which is 1,250 days. How many hours of practice do you think you've done in all of your years of being a professional snooker player?
It's a hard question. That if I've had a calculator, it'd probably be a lot easier. But I'm assuming I'd average probably 2 hours every day, because there's times where I don't play for 3-4 months. There's times where I didn't play for a full year, and there's times where I don't play for weeks, 2 weeks on end. So there's a lot of times where I haven't played. So if I was to average it out, when I was a kid, I'd play anywhere between 6 and 10 hours a day, sometimes 12 hours a day. And I think that's where I learned to just get such good stamina. Even now, later on in my career, as I'm older, obviously, the concentration level is not as good. The hunger, the desire is not like it was when I was younger. That natural appetite to play. It's like an adrenaline thing. So you just can do 10 hours, and people look at me, I'll be like, I loved every minute of it. So if you're loving what you do, you're never really looking at the clock and thinking, oh, I've been doing this 3-4 hours. I just didn't want it to end. So I'd probably say on average probably about 2-3 hours a day. So if you times that by 365, times that by 30 years, you'd get the number.
It's probably about over 200,000. Oh God, no! It's a lot of hours.
Yeah, I
don't even have my maths GCSE. But why is practice, do you think, so important? Because a lot of people have always said, "Oh, Ronnie, you're just really lucky." Remember when you came to the golf college I was working at, and some kids said, "Ronnie, you're just really lucky because you're just really talented." And you've obviously got talent, but how important is it to work hard at something to get good at something?
In the beginning, it's everything, because you need to hone the skill in. You need to develop your skills. You need to learn the game. You need to learn the science side of it in a way. So snooker's a very mechanical sort of sport. It's very repetitive. So in a bit like golf in a way, you're just trying to repeat that rhythm, that swing, that kind of cue action, if you like. And the nearer you can keep repeating that, the more you ingrain them habits, and then it becomes like an autopilot sort of thing. So all them early years of training are to get you to that point where it becomes autopilot, so you can do it without even thinking. But obviously when you're first starting out to learn something, you have to work on all these things. So I always believed that there's the 10,000 hour rule, and I do believe that you need to put the time in. But what if you was putting 10,000 hours in of doing something the wrong way? You've reinforced wrong habits in a way, and in some ways you probably won't improve as a player. You might actually get even worse, and I've seen that happen with snooker players over the years. So it's important.
But you did that as well for a while, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I early in my career, I had very good habits and very good sort of swings and very good cue action and a lot of good stuff. So for me, it was just the game come very easy because of that. And then I kind of copied a few other players who I thought at the time were better than me, but they were better than me, but they was a lot older than me, and I never took in their age compared to mine. And I was just in that development phase, but I just wanted to get good really quick. So I thought I'll copy what they do, but actually it was the wrong thing for me to do because I kind of created some bad habits, and then one fault became another fault, and then while I was trying to curing up one fault, I was creating another fault, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
So, I've kind of had to go back to the drawing board many times because of these little bad habits, and you kind of have to, try and iron them out one at a time. And you can't do them all, but you can take one, reinforce one good habit, and that kind of gets you going again. So I'm never as good as I was when I was younger in that respect, but I just have to kind of...
Because it's painful as well,
isn't
it?
It's like an MOT. You have to put yourself...
It's painful. I would imagine that it's painful when you have to dissect your game and think, oh no, I've got to work at that in order to get better. Like Tiger Woods, like reinventing his swing when he was at the... But So tell me right now in your life, what's driving you?
What's driving me at the moment is just, opportunities outside of snooker, really, to be honest with you. I've had a great life playing snooker. I love playing snooker. I enjoy the practice. I enjoy being on the road for a certain amount of time. So I always, at the start of the year, say, right, I will be spending this amount of nights away from home, because I have to value, where's the value for me, and the value is in that I love doing, I love playing. But, once I go over a certain point, I stop enjoying playing not because of the playing, just of the travelling and the pressure and just trying to kind of, just being away from home. So
there's so many things. There's two big things, right? But obviously there's so many trophies right here. Have you achieved everything that you've really wanted? If you didn't win another major event tournament, would you be bothered? No,
not at all. Because in snooker, like I say, growing up, I was happy to have won one world title at one stage. I won the UK when I was 17. That was an amazing feeling. But I never thought that I'm going to go on to win what I would win. So I was kind of happy with that. And then you win a few more tournaments, then you kind of get a little bit greedy, and you think, well, maybe I should win some more, and you start to look at the person above you, what are they doing, and you want to strive on. So that competitive drive in me pushed me to try and become the best player I could. And at one stage I wasn't sure if I was going to win a world title. Eventually I did, which was great. massive monkey off my back, and allowed me to relax and then just kind of develop as a snooker player and see where I could take it from there. And you know, a lot of my world titles there's been a few gaps in between because, you know, I've gone missing for a few years, you know, whether that was mentally or physically with my game, who knows, but, you know, I've always managed to get back on track.
Because obviously I've got this picture here, which was in 2002.
Yeah,
What do you remember about that?
Well, I remember I was just that's backstage, and yeah, I remember, you know, we hadn't known each other long then, but we had a great, you know, I always love spending time with you, and we had some great times, and you know, just to share that moment with you and be there, because I know how much you value, you know, just getting the best out of yourself. So a lot of the time, I had a lot of distractions around me. I remember meeting you, and you was like, "Who are all these people?" And I was like, "You was right," you know, because Steve Peters had said the same thing to me. You know, like, "Who are all these people?" And it's like I'm a bit of a people pleaser in a way, so it's hard for me to say no to somebody. So you know, I had a lot of people there that I didn't really want there. And I've learnt over the years to kind of go with my gut instinct there and not have people around me as much.
Well, you've said so many great things before we started filming today, and one of them was about living life on your terms, your rules, and you know, I mean, everyone, or not everyone, but anyone who knows anything about snooker would say, Ronnie, come on, you've got to go for the seventh, you've got, or the eighth, really, to become. You know, some people would say that is the greatest thing. No one's ever done that before. But when I look at this and think, you know, that was great to see you to win that title, especially after I knew what you'd been through the year before, and the fact that I'd said to you, Ronnie, I don't think that you're an alcoholic. Do you remember that? See, I was naive. This is another thing. I was naive because I just thought alcoholics were a certain type of person who would always drink. But what I learned from you is. And that world title that you lost in the first round, you made a 147. You went on a bender for like 3 or 4 months, and you blame me for it, which was fair enough. But look, it doesn't. You did what you did, but I understood, and I actually learned a big lesson from that, because you don't have an alcoholic isn't necessarily someone who drinks all the time. You know, you were the sort of person that could just smash something and then stop. Have you always been like that, do you think, with your kind of behaviours, that you could literally do something for a while and then smash it and then stop and then...
Yeah, no, I could, you know, and that's what I'd done, but then it got to a point where I couldn't stop, you know. I felt it was getting in the way of what I should be doing, you know. So like every time the World Championships come, I would like look forward to the end of it, because there was no tournaments to get up for. So, you know, I'd wish that tournament was over so quick, so I'd get to the quarters or semis. If it wasn't going right, I think, sweet, you know, I've got 4 months to go and party and have some good time with my friends. So the drive to want to win that tournament, you know, if things weren't going well, I'd quickly kind of give up, really, you know, subconsciously. So for me to not, you know, dabble in my addictions meant that option was no longer there. You know, that was no longer like party time after World Championships. You know, if I lost in the World Championships, it was the time after World Championships now spent getting ready for next season. So, you know, there was no desire to want to get beaten in the World Championships, because my whole life was built around getting ready to win the World Championships. So, you know, that's where addiction was not good for me, because I used it as a snooker was like, it funded a lifestyle and I enjoyed it and I'd have fun on the tour. But really what in the back of my mind was I just really wanted to just let my hair down and just break loose with a few of my friends, which wasn't really the right thing. But that's what addiction can do to you sometimes. It can distort your thinking, you know. So
when I look at that picture, for me, it wasn't the world title. That was seeing you win. That was great fun. But what I remember about that was countless hours of fun and laughter and just having fun. You know, that's what I remember about it. And I think often people don't know the fun, but they also don't know the heartache that must go on in terms of how hard it is to be the best when you're out there on show, because most people don't live a lifestyle like that where they work at something and everyone can see what it is that they're doing. You're putting yourself out there, and you also said today that you also always struggled with trying to please everyone else at a big event. The biggest headache, the anxiety would come from, I've got to take care of everyone, I've got to get everyone tickets. And I can't imagine Roger Federer Maybe he does. Maybe he does have to deal with that side of things.
Yeah. Well, you get someone else to deal with it, but they still end up coming to you and going, "Oh right, we forgot, such and such, And I'm like, "Well, can we buy some more tickets?" Well, no, you can't. So then you still have to make a decision at the end of the day. So, like I said, for this year's World Championships, that was taken out of my hands. There was no visitors, no guests, no crowd, no one crowding the stage door. I could get in and out of Sheffield, and I've never felt so relaxed in my whole life. So it just shows you that it wasn't the snooker and it wasn't all the other stuff. It was just sort of
stuff that goes.
It was all the other bits, the circus that surrounds, certain tournaments, if you like. So for me, the Masters, that was the reason why I didn't play in the Masters, because it's a huge circus there. It's a major event, and
everyone wants a piece of you, right?
Everyone wants a piece of me, and there's a select bunch of players who the media want a piece of. So we always get, much more requests, and I just decided that was burning me out more than that was doing that was stopping me actually enjoying playing. And for me, it was just all about the playing side of it. So I decided to not play in any tournament where I felt like snooker wasn't becoming the priority. The circus become the priority. So for me, a lot of the low-key events, and now probably I will play a lot more China events, because I know the travelling can be quite hard, but once I'm there, my time's not used up in that way. They allow you just to play your snooker, and they are the biggest events as well. And I do like China and playing out there. So I'll probably boycott. I say boycott. I won't play a lot of the events where the circus is around, unless I like the town. So York, for me, it's like I have to accept the circus there, because I really love York, and it's like it's like a real good holiday for me.
Yeah.
But London is the Masters is like a no for me, really. If I never played in that again, I wouldn't be disappointed. World Championships a bit like that again, unless COVID's still lingering around next year. I quite look forward to the peace and quiet of Sheffield that I had this year.
Yeah. So living life on your in your terms, why is that important?
Because I'm a lot happier when I do what I want to do, and and I just set my own rules, and obviously, I think it's clear. It's important when you do that is to be clear with people. Because if you're setting your own rules and people don't like your rules, but you don't explain to them why you need these rules, then, you can start to maybe unsettle a lot of people, and people can just think, well, why has he been like that? But when, normally when you explain to someone, you're pretty straight with them, they kind of get it, and and it's nice to just set your boundaries out a lot better. And I think that's come with age and experience and wisdom. And everybody settles down. That if they know what you're prepared to put up with and not to put up with, then it's up to them to maybe work around you. There's always think there's a compromise, but if the other side is not prepared to compromise, then they're not the type of people that I really want to be spending
I think it's just so beautiful. I didn't know exactly what we were going to talk about today. I just really wanted to have the opportunity to speak to you again, and I really appreciate you giving me your time. But there was a little kid that sent you a message before, and why is that important for you to inspire people in a way like that? No one will ever know that you've touched the heart of that child by just sending him a message and him sending you a message. Why is that so important to you?
Because I don't know. I was around him. I just got this sense of just I don't know. It was just a joyful, happy, sort of genuinely just a big smile on his face, and I just kind of just got taken in by him in a way. And his parents were lovely, and I knew they didn't want anything from me. They were just there to watch the snooker, and and I was like, great to see you, meet you, blah blah blah. And I said, look, come to the party afterwards. So he come with his mum and dad, and we had a fantastic time, and he had a great time, and he met all my family and friends, and it was just a great night, and we swapped numbers, and they're obviously up. They work in a part of the country where I like to go and visit as well. So there's a connection there, and he likes telling jokes, and he's only 11, and he sends me loads of little funny jokes and stuff like that. And every time I see his name and his thing come up on WhatsApp, I just laugh and I just smile. It just makes me happy. So I don't question it. I go, what that.
Well, you actually said, which was beautiful. You actually said that you get as much pleasure than probably he does.
Yeah.
And I think when we look at mental health, it looks like a lot of people struggle with mental health where they're not living life on their terms. And you are extremely famous, but you don't choose to play the game that everyone seems to be playing, where you're kind of selling your soul, and then you don't really ever have yourself. And why do you think that's so important for you to do that?
Listen, I mean, we all have to play the game to a certain extent, you know, but it's how much you're prepared to play that game. And for me, the value is so much more value in having some privacy, you know, I don't want to be put myself on this pedestal to where you can get knocked down if you like. So in a way, I just think I'd rather stick to my own rules, kind of live my life on my own terms, keep under the radar if you like, and you know, because obviously with that fame and notoriety and all that stuff, you know, you have to be held accountable sometimes for that stuff, and I don't really want to be held accountable for some stuff, you know, because we're all fallible as human beings. We can all make mistakes, and you know, I just try to just live my life as honestly, and I hopefully through how I play my game and how I compete and how I come across on TV, that's the end product. You know, people don't have to see my life on Instagram or on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know, they see me play on TV. They see me.
That's enough.
They see me at 44. They you know, we all judge a book by its cover, whether we like to.
Yeah.
You know, we all have like an instant perception of someone. At 44, you can tell I take care of myself. I look well, and I'm still competing. So when I'm not on the TV, you know that I'm doing a lot of things that are good for me. You know, like practicing. I'm eating well. I'm healthy, and you know, my whole life is quite stable. So that's my reflection to the world in a way, you know.
Yeah. So let's just talk about that thing, drive, because I sent you something yesterday, and then I mentioned to you today that there is two genes which have been identified in driven people, and whether you've got those genes or not, you are a fairly driven person, right?
Yeah.
And the author of this book, Driven, talks about if you don't manage that drive, it's like putting a Formula One racing car, putting it like on a street outside here, it's going to cause some havoc.
Yeah.
So if you weren't driven, you weren't disciplined with your drive, where do you think you'd be now?
It's a very, very good question, because like the obvious thing is that I'd find something to put it in, but I think my drive through snooker has kind of it's hit its limit, it's hit its ceiling, and it's like I'm bumping my head on the ceiling a lot of the time, thinking, well, where do I go from here? So there's kind of some frustrations within that, because I think you know, like I need to feel like there's somewhere to go with it. There's some growth, and I do feel like I've kind of plateaued out with snooker for quite a while. So for me, the drive is about people, you know, and surrounding yourself with fantastic people now, you know, and I feel like in the snooker world, I've outdone that in many ways, you know. It's sort of like I'm a bit of a waste there, you know, like there's a lot of players striving to get where I am, but I'm not striving to get where anyone else is, if that makes sense, you know. So for me, the drive is in seeing what people are doing and thinking, that's where I want to be. And there's a lot more people outside of snooker that, in fact, there's no one in snooker that I'd want to be, but there's a lot of people outside snooker that I strive to be. So I've kind of just started last year looking into different projects and different things that I can get involved in, and that's what's inspiring me, you know, and that's what keeps me getting out of bed in the morning and keep, you know, loving life, if you like.
So let's talk about personal development, right? Because you've always been into personal development, right? How did you first get into it, and what was your first? What was the first book or the first time you thought, oh, I like this development stuff?
I think the first time I got introduced to it, I think someone's mentioned Anthony Robbins, and then I think my dad said read a book called The Road Less Travelled by Martin Peck. I couldn't get into it; it was too heavy and deep for me at the time. Couldn't make sense of it. Probably could now. And I dabbled a bit into it, and you know, the Anthony Robbins stuff was pretty good. Listened to the CDs, and I kind of liked it. But I just couldn't maintain it, you know. For me, it was like it worked for a week, 2-3 weeks. Just could never really kind of keep on that energy level, you know.
Eckhart Tolle as well, I remember.
Eckhart Tolle was another one, you know, great, you know. And I think what it is what over the years, like meeting you, Steve Peters, it's just become like I've kind of worked out my own way of kind of getting, you know, living life, you know. So for me, it's a bit of everything.
So you found the answers in yourself. You've obviously listened to other people and got advice from other people. Actually, Tony Robbins, one of the things I love when he talks about the 6 needs, the human needs. So he talks about people need certainty, uncertainty, they need growth, uncertainty, certainty, connection, and significance. There are 6. The 5th, 5 and 6 are growth and contribution.
Yeah.
But what he says is most people get those first 4 met in a way that isn't good for them, through habits, through addictions. And that's some of the hard stuff that some of us have to work through so that we can end up just growing and contributing, which it seems like that's really what you're obsessed with. You just want to keep growing and keep contributing.
I've a zero tolerance for something that doesn't feel right, because it's time. I look at things now and I just think, what else is there? For me, I don't need to work. I don't need to do anything. I've got a nice life, comfortable life. So for me, it's become all about time, and that's how I value time. So that's why I don't like to be away from home too long, because although I enjoy that time, I still need time to do the other stuff. So I kind of very aware of not wasting my time, if you like. So I like to keep fit. I like to do that sort of stuff. But then there's the other areas where I have to find time to manage different projects that I'm involved in, and there's no point being involved in these projects unless I'm going to give it my time, because the growth comes in, meeting new people and doing different things and getting inspired, and I always say, you need a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and that's...
So, and is your reason just because you just want to grow, you still want to do things, make things happen?
Yeah, absolutely, because I always think, it's like it's a bit of a legacy thing as well, what legacy can I leave playing snooker? It's just a load of medals and a load of YouTube videos and a load for people. But for me, I want to create something so as that's still there, it's still functioning, and it can help people with their lives. So providing jobs, providing whether that's within a charity or whether that's involved in a business. But you're changing people's lives. You're giving people a chance to work and develop themselves as well. So snooker became, I realised very quickly, just all about me. And what I was in it to. It's a very single vision, single-minded sort of thing. But to thrive in life, I think you need to kind of develop a team of people around you to share that with, and that passion and joy becomes like a more like a team effort. So. For me, it's about just people as well now,
So, with the World Championships where you were talking, you said because you don't look at social media and stuff, but you often say things which definitely prick people's ears up and make people... But I think you've got a really refreshing way of saying a lot of things. And one of the things you were saying about the youngsters coming through, what did you mean by that? Was it partly to do with the fact that that people aren't working really hard at their game, or they're not taking it seriously? What was it that you were trying to say?
Listen, in some ways, I was hoping it'd inspire some of the younger generations.
I'm sure it has, with that kid that just beat you, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping it would inspire a lot of youngsters to go, I'm going to work a bit harder and try and develop myself.
I didn't think that you might have said it for that reason.
Yeah, because obviously, I care about the game, and I look at youngsters, and sometimes you can't get through to them. And sometimes the best way to get through to someone is to give them a little bit of a knock, because I found that's what worked for me when I was younger. Whenever someone said I couldn't do something, it inspired me to do it. And I just think winners think like that. They think, if you say something you can't do that, they think, first reason is why, and I'm going to show them. They might not say it, but it makes them work harder, and makes them challenge themselves, if you like. So, and in a way, it's just it's just sort of like, you get a lot of players that come on the circuit, and everyone goes, anyone can beat anyone, and I go, yeah, anyone can beat anyone on a given day, but it's not okay beating me on a Monday. You got to beat me Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You can't just anyone can beat anyone on a day. I give that's a given. But for me, it's not about having good days. It's about having good months, good years, and good decades. If you want to be I call it a true sportsman. Because otherwise, what are you then? You're just a pain in the arse. Every now and again, you upset the apple cart.
Well, that's one of the things you used to say about he's got no arsehole. We used to watch a lot of sport together. And what did you mean by that?
Well, I think a lot of people are just afraid of losing. And listen, fear fear of losing can be a driving force, but it shouldn't dictate the way you play the game, and a lot of it's all in the shot selection. That tells you a lot about a player, like I say, 0-0, they come into the match, nothing to lose, they go 4-1 up, first to 5, and then all of a sudden,
they bottle it.
Well, they change their game, they kind of start to twitch a little bit, and, against most players, it's okay, but against like a top player like a Jordan or a Tiger Woods, they're going to notice that immediately and gain confidence. So to be a true champion, you kind of, like I said, you have to know the science of the game, the mechanics of the game. You have to have a good head, and it's about becoming.
But that's where you've looked at all of that. Again, people say success is what you're doing when no one else is looking, and again, probably people just don't really know the amount, not just the amount of hours you've practiced, but also just the questioning of what's that mean, how does that work, and trying to understand it all.
It's a business at the end of the day, and if you're running a business, you want to know your business inside out. You want to know your competitors, you want to know your market, you want to know what you're up against.
Yeah, I think with you, it's like what I would call a magnificent obsession. That you were just obsessed with.
Yeah, but I think you need to be obsessed.
Yeah.
A lot of people go, "Oh, I've got this obsession." I'm like, yeah, you need that obsession. If you haven't got that obsession, forget it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful, don't do it, because to be the best, or you have a chance of competing with the best, it has to become an obsession.
Yeah.
Some people need to put 8 hours a day in. Some people need to put 2 hours a day in. But on the other 6 hours, they still need to be doing something to push them towards that goal. So we all have weaknesses and strengths. And sometimes, over practicing can dilute. For me, I'd rather do 2 hours and go and have an hour run. It's better than playing snooker for 6 hours because. It's not right for me, but I'm still obsessed. That run is still a part of an obsession for me. So when I put my suit on match day, I feel fit, I feel fresh, I feel like I've ticked every box.
Yeah.
And if I lose, I lose. If I win, probably it's down because of all the different types of I've not left no stone unturned,
So did you watch the Netflix Last Dance with Jordan?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So
well, you got me into Jordan. Yeah. Listen, I must admit, a lot of when you hear Jordan talk, a lot of the way he used to psych himself up for matches, I've done all my life, and I didn't realise it until I watched that, where Jordan, he would pick a fight, he would pick something to sort of gear himself up, So he might criticise an opponent, he might have an argument with his coach, but yet that argument with his coach was so he could prove to his coach to never leave me out the starting lineup. I am, So it was kind of like. There was always something. You need to kind of get himself going. You needed a reason to prove the opposition or to And I've always done that. I not knowingly, but I've always thrived on thinking, right, it's on me. I now need to deliver. If I don't deliver, I'm going to fall flat on my face.
But you love that, though,
don't you? The feeling of falling flat on my face isn't going to happen. So I'd find something from somewhere. And afterwards, I'd think, wow, it was on me there, but I come through it. And you end up having the last laugh. But
the last dance. You should do a series which is called The Last
Laugh.
Definitely.
But it kind of like, it's not a laugh, it's more of like, you know what, that was what I needed to push myself above and beyond where, it's like you set yourself a target and you might just reach under it. So for me to do something like that, it's like you're setting yourself up for a fall. So
I think you also know that if you're going to set your sights of something, you probably know how much work it's really involved. And that it sounds like you're getting to a point where you think, I don't really know how much I want to do that, because it is hard work, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
And for how long you've been doing it, all your life?
Yeah, listen, there's a few tools. Listen, there's a 12-month year, and I just look at, I'm in a very good place with everything, and I enjoy what I'm doing. And I just think I'll tick over, and then there'll be a little spell in the year where I go, you know what, I just up the practice, up whatever. I'll get a win. I might win 1, 2 tournaments, 3 tournaments a year. I don't need to win 6, 7, 8 tournaments a year. I'm not prepared to put that effort and desire in, but I'm prepared to get a quarters, a semi, a quarters, a final. All of a sudden, I'll up the practice, and then I might win 2 or 3 events. That'll do for me.
So I think other people would say that they would, right? But they don't know what's involved. They don't know what's involved.
Yeah, they don't.
The hard work that's involved. So when you watch The Last Dance, what did you see in Jordan that you see in yourself?
I just think he was just a leader, wasn't he? He was just sort of like, he was like a Maradona in a way, he got his team up for it, and like without him there, they was okay and they were still a force to be reckoned with. But when it came to winning that final few games, they didn't have Jordan, and it's just like Pippen needed needed Jordan there. Rodman needed Jordan there. Rodman wouldn't have turned up if it wasn't for Jordan, you know. So Jordan kind of was like, hold on a minute here, you go and get him from Vegas. You need to send someone there.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I'm a little bit like that. It's like, you know, it's like the job's got to be done. You know, we've got to do it. Give Rodman his 2 or 3 days. You know, he wants to go and party, enjoy himself. Most people go, he can't do that. He signed a contract. No, you got to know your people. You got to know what's right. You want a happy team. Do you know what I mean? And I believe that if you cut someone a bit of slack, then that person will give you 120%. And that's what he got from Jordan, I think, was that overall sense of what each player needed to make that team a great team. But without Jordan, it was never going to be the team it was. So,
is that something now you want in your life, to be like have a team and to do something where everyone's...
Absolutely, yeah. And I might not be the Jordan, I might be the Rodman, I might be the Pippen. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a Rodman or a Pippen. You know, I'm happy to be led and have someone go, you know what, Ron, steer me there. And also because you're in the slipstream. You know, if someone's super successful but you're aligning yourself with them, then you're going to be successful too, you know. And we all have our own roles to play, you know, and I'm happy to play that role. You know, I am a bit of a team player, you know. You have to be a team player if you want to be successful. Even with my snooker, you know, I've had to work with people, and you know, not everyone's going to want to work with me if I just want to do it my way. So it's about being open-minded enough to learn, you know, a better way in a way, and that's why I've worked with you, Steve Peters, and you know, and I continue to work with these people because, you know, it's about that pursuit of excellence, and where does it end? I don't think it ever ends.
Yeah, I love that.
It's just it's always evolving. I think the whole planet's evolving, and we're all like, you know, we've got an opportunity to be better than the people that went before us.
So lastly, when we talk about the monkey, the chimp paradox, which is obviously the big thing with Dr. Stephen Peters, I refer to it as a duck, but I mean, we've all got that voice in our head.
Yeah.
How have you learned to change that narrative, the part of you that can run you down and beat you up? And
yeah. I mean, a lot of it's observation. You know, sometimes I observe myself and I kind of look and I think, you know what? Actually, I've got quite a few assets. You know, it's not all doom and gloom, and it's like I appreciate more what I bring to the table now rather than what I thought I didn't bring to the table. You know, I was always comparing myself. I could be better. I could be this, and could's okay. But really, it was just about, you know, just sort of being a little bit less harsh on myself, and sometimes, you know, not trying to sort something out immediately. Just kind of focus on the job in hand. Don't let that voice interfere. You're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. You could do, you know, like forget that. Just play the game. Play the balls. You know, you've got 8 frames to do here. Compete. You know, these 8 frames, you just got to compete and compete and compete. All the years of practice and thinking, like I said at the start, you need to go into autopilot state when it's game time. Before and after, you can do all the thinking you like, you know, because that's the time to do it. But when you're out there, there's no time for that. It's like, you know, we're here, we're a gladiator, we're ready to fight, we're ready to do battle, and the only way to be successful in them pressurised moments is to try and blank everything out and just be bang in the present and take one ball at a time, and then you get into that kind of zone where, you know, you become like unplayable sometimes, you know. So
lastly, what would you want? I'm sure people have asked you this question before, but I'd love to know, what do you want the legacy of your life to be? How do you want to be remembered? What do you want to leave? What do you want to leave behind?
I look at it in 2 stages. I think my snooker career has been fantastic, and I love the fans and the joy that I think I've brought to a lot of people's lives. You know, I've met a lot of fantastic people and got some great friends, and I've travelled the world and played in front of hundreds of thousands of fans, and I know, you know, that they've gone away and, you know, and they love it, you know, and you touch people's lives, and, you know, it's the reaction I get from people is like, you know, it's quite hard to take sometimes, because you think, like, you know, they think so much of you and appreciate. What am I supposed to do? Yeah, how do I repay that? You know, how do I look so enthusiastic towards them as they do towards me? You know, you can't, because I don't know these people. But, you know, I just think, you know what, maybe I've done a good job and brought a lot of happiness to people. But then there's the second phase of your life where, as I say, you know, I don't want to sit still and be a commentator or a pundit just on snooker all my life. So it's about creating something, whether that's a charity, whether that's a business. But yeah, I'm just excited by, you know, getting involved in that sort of different things now, you know, and be more of a team player. All my life I've been a singular sportsman, but I think a team player, and that legacy to leave behind something that can, you know, whether that's a charity or business that carries on long after I've sort of finished my days, would be great, you know. And you know, I just, you know, a lot of the initiatives that people do, you know, even if you look at the Jamie Oliver thing where he took 15 kids off the street and trained them up to be chefs. You know, just simple things like that. I think that they can be quite rewarding. Just changing people's lives and giving people a chance. You know, caring for people. I think.
You know, I see so many people when they finish competing, they do go into a big depression because they don't know what else to do. I think Jonathan Edwards is a classic example of that. You know, you spend all your life doing the hop, skip, and a jump. Yeah. And for you're already doing other things, and there's so much more that you want to do. I think what I want to say to you is that I've actually had some of my greatest memories of my life is with you. You know, just these few fleeting little things that might not mean very much to anyone, but just, and it just reminds me of how important it is. And you really do inspire me. You inspire me like you wouldn't believe. You do. And it's also a dream because I always loved looking at people who were great at what they did. I was always obsessed by that. So I remember watching Steve Davis. I remember that great snooker match where he played Dennis Taylor, you know, 1985. And then watching Hendry. I wasn't really interested in snooker at all. And then you came on the scene. I was just watching all the time. And then I was thinking, I must have thought, oh, it'd be great to meet you. It'd be great to, and then obviously to have met you and spent time with you and just been a friend to you and to see. But the greatest thing isn't the medals, you know, I mean, and the trophies. It's not. It's who you've become. And I know it's not you know, the end isn't here. It's all going on. And I think what I get the most from you is that desire just to want to get better, to keep getting better. Yeah. You know? Absolutely, you know. Why not? You've got to write your next book. I think if you stand still, you're going backwards. You know, I always think that, you know, and you know, it's just, and if you're not looking to go forwards, then you've got no chance of meeting great people. You know, and I just think I'm always inspired by people and what can be achieved, and there shouldn't be no limitations on you. Look at Kipchoge. You know, I love that. You know, that he said, why are we putting limits on ourselves as human beings? And for me, that's him living by his own rules. You know, like sub 2 hour. No one would ever believe it was possible, but until someone like him that believed it and focused towards it and wanted it, and he made that happen, you know. So anything's possible. You just have to sometimes look outside the little fishbowl that you can sometimes get in and get into the ocean, because it's a big ocean out there, I think, you know. Well, I really appreciate you know, your time today. It's just so strange we didn't plan to be in this room. Of course. And trilogy. The trilogy of podcasts. The trilogy, yeah. But thank you so much, and I hope the people have enjoyed this. Feel free to share it, because I just think people will listen to this, and it really will give people a different perspective of possibility. And that's when we change, right? We change when we look at things differently, not when someone tells us what to do. So, exactly, thank you so much. That was awesome. Lovely, top man.